I think that's a perfect opportunity for us to mention, as Taman was saying, about where are the Democrats right now. There are news reports out, including News Nation, that there has been a last-minute meeting called for tomorrow by the president, or
meeting.
all of his all-staff inner circle people.
First, let me say, Paul Lisnick,
Paul
our
Lisnick,
political
I
analyst,
think
thanks for
everybody
coming on
Right.
to talk a little bit about this speech.
Hoping some know me by now.
And the politics right now that are going on in this nation.
Well, it's intense, and we've never seen anything like this kind of election. Look, that notion that we've been hearing about, which is this all-staff meeting called for tomorrow, there's been a lot of buzz. Anybody watching the news over the last few days knows that President Biden has been getting a lot of pressure from, and we're beyond the days where it's this congressman came out or this congressperson. We're beyond that. We're now talking about the leadership. This is about Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer. They are all talking to President Biden. Adam Schiff.
And President Biden said that his chances are shrinking as far as becoming
the handwriting is on
reelected.
the walls. I have talked to a few members of Congress, and one of the things that is becoming clear to me is that President Biden is being kept isolated from a lot of the actual information, as you would expect perhaps some advisors to do. They're often telling him what they think he needs to hear or what they want him to hear. That's concerning. But I think you don't play around with that when Nancy Pelosi's involved. And so I'm guessing at this point, President Biden has been given other information, has a better sense of all that is going on. Now, look, he could be calling an all-staff meeting to say once and for all, I'm not leaving.
I'm in, and we're all in, and let's do this.
He could absolutely do that, but my gut sense of this, and hearing everything that I'm hearing, this could be going the other direction. There are some predicting that, in fact, the president may choose to. He won't step down from presidency, but he may take himself out of the nomination process by the end of the weekend. That is, I don't say that with knowledge from members of Congress. I just say that's something that seems to be handwriting on the wall.
Paul, do you think that there will be a lot of fact-checking tomorrow of the former president's speech?
Well, there'll be fact-checking tonight, depending on, and look, and I was trying to track some of this stuff, but here's the thing, and I thought, you know what, rather than sort of going through, well, he said that jobs have been lost here, and the reality is the Biden administration actually has created far more jobs. Jobs were lost under the Trump administration, but rather than going through that and triggering viewers who are Trump supporters and get upset, with that kind of information, the bottom line is President Trump had a job to do tonight, and that job was to speak to his base, speak to the Republicans, and hopefully speaking beyond. I think Nikki Haley did him a huge favor the other night when she was the holdout, right? She's the one who said, I can't endorse you, I can't. And then you have this 20% or so of Republicans who wanted somewhere to go, the Biden administration thinking maybe they'll go Democratic for this vote. But when Nikki Haley came out the other day and said, let me make it clear, I endorse President Trump, that was another,
To what extent is that surprising, though? Because she's just reading the room. I mean, she's reading the tea leaves there.
Well, Nikki Haley wants a future.
Donald Trump firmly controls this party, and if she wants a future, as you were going to say, you better get on board.
There's no question. And you can look at the Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, a whole list of people.
Greg
who,
Abbott.
and I know some of the networks have been doing that. They show what they said 4 years ago.
One time never Trumpers.
Exactly. Well, how about J.D.
J.D.
Vance?
Vance.
Well, that's it right there.
Classic
He
right there.
said he was a never Trump.
Absolutely. And said some other things about Trump. I won't even repeat here. But the bottom line is, as you just said, Patrick, all of these people have said, I see where everything is. I see where the party is. And you know what? If I'm going to serve the people and I'm going to keep an office, I better get on this train.
But as Ben Bradley pointed out while he was at the RNC, there are a lot of people who did not attend the Republican convention. You've got people like Adam Kinzinger, people who did not go because they are not on the Trump train.
He's persona non grata in the party.
Yeah.
And in fact, Adam Kinzinger, I saw an interview that he did recently. I haven't talked to him the last few days, but he said, oh, if I walked in, I'd be booed out the door.
Yeah, well, Jim Durkin, another one, said he didn't do it. Jim Edgar, former governor of Illinois.
Well, Micah, these are traditional Republicans, right?
And we talked about that election night, too. They said, we're traditional. We don't go for that.
Right.
But there's still a lot to do.
But apparently not enough. And so this is the Trump party. Trump owns this party, and that's just the way it is. So the moderate Republicans are searching for a home. You're right. The names you point out, those are people who say, unlike J.D. Vance and others, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to give up my personal values. They say, have traditional Republican values, and I will hold on to those. And so I wish them well, and we'll see where time takes them.
He talked a lot about the economy, but he really doubled down on the immigration issue. And I think that is a salient point, one way or another, with people out there, whether you're in favor of what's happening or whether you hate it.
Look, that's one of the key social issues people talk about. By the way, there was an issue he didn't mention once, abortion. right?
That's a
did
good
not.
And that is a critical thing, of course, for Democrats. You're going to hear a lot about that
That's a good point.
in the Democratic convention when it comes up. You didn't hear
we know
word
that
one tonight.
he pretty much has flipped on the Roe v. Wade for a while ago. Trump did.
Well, he tried to. The truth is, Donald Trump himself has probably never really been against abortions. I mean, it's just not who he is and what he's about. But he understood where the party was with that. But you're right, he tries to have it both ways. I got you the justices that overturned Roe versus Wade, but by the way, everybody wants Roe versus Wade overturned.
And there's
which
not
wasn't
going to be
true.
a national or a federal law, he has said, to
Leave it to
outlaw
the
abortion.
states.
Leave it to
Right.
the states.
But then at other times where he said women should go to prison if they have an abortion. So he's all over the place on the issue as he tries to read it. But look, he stayed away from it tonight. And Patrick, to your point, he focused a lot about immigration because look, is there any better argument to make for that audience than to say we will have a massive deportation? Anybody not legally here is leaving. That's a crowd pleaser. Easier said than done, but that is a positive thing to say. And look, he's got a record. You know, 4 years ago, or 8 years ago, I should say, you know, we didn't know what he was going to do and all that. Today, we know what he does. We know what his policies are. So when you listen to him tonight, believe him.
Very good.
Paul Lisnick, will we see you tomorrow night?
Yes, you will.
All
I will
right.
be here. We'll
All
talk
right.
more about it all.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. We're happy to share time with us this Thursday night on the WGN News. I'm Micah Mater.
I'm Patrick Elwood. Thanks for having me this week.
Thanks for being here this
My
week.
pleasure.
Be safe, be well.
Good night.
Bye-bye.